Hi everyone, and welcome to the Malaysia Games Market Bootcamp organized by Gamescom Asia. Very exciting, and I'm really looking forward to be the host for today. We have lots of great speakers. My name is Yuval Pasov. Currently have two hats. One is the regional partner manager, working with the biggest marketing partners at Google APAC, based out of Singapore. And beside that, I'm also the founder of Game on Asia, a podcast specializing in mobile gaming companies in Asia. I spoke with a leading expert from around the region, both investors and game developers. And if you are not subscribed, make sure to join. Just go to gameonasia.net and subscribe to the podcast. Speaking about navigating Asia, the Gamescom Asia has done, as you know, a great work covering all the key markets in Southeast Asia: Philippines, Indonesia, Singapore, Thailand, India, and even Australia in their monthly bootcamp series. And I think that before we start, it would be great to hear from the crowd. If any one of you already joined any of the boot camps, if you can just type in the chat. If you've been to one boot camp, just press 1. If you've been to 3, press 3. If you've been to 6, press 6. If you've been to none of them, just press 0. So I see a few zeros. Okay, 2, 6, 7. Great job, Grace. Hannah with 2, and now the third one. Okay, so I see we have kind of a mix. We have 0, but we have lots of like 6 and 7. And I think that you're lucky because this is the last one. This is the 7th bootcamp that we will spotlight Malaysia. In case you missed the other one, they're all recorded and you can go back and look at them. Specifically about Malaysia, we have over 25 million gamers in Malaysia, spending over $540 million on video games. And according to Niko Partners, revenue-wise, it's one of the biggest gaming market in Southeast Asia. We will hear later on from Niko Partners about really the market size, forecast, and so on. So stay tuned. But before we going to hear about from Niko Partners, let's hear from MDEC, the lead agency established by Malaysia government, and we will hear to drive growth of the nation's digital economy, and the games industry is one of them. So who will join us from MDEC? We'll have Mohan Low, the head of digital creative content, with a background in leadership, business, and tech. Mohan also has been the founding member of several game development, publishing, and consulting startups. And since 2003, he launched over 30 games. So definitely a lot to learn from him over the course of his career. His passion also led him to mentor over 100 game projects, organize gaming culture events, and now work with government toward building Malaysia into a regional digital content hub. So very, very exciting. Mohan will be sharing with us an overview on the Malaysian digital gaming industry and ongoing government initiative. So take it away, Mohan. Very excited that you join us.
Hello and good day everyone. My name is Mohan Low and I'm the head of digital creative content at MDEC. MDEC is a government agency tasked to develop the digital economy of Malaysia. I'm here today to give an overview of the Malaysian games industry. So let's take a look at the markets. Despite a global pandemic, the demand for digital content such as animation and games continues to rise. Malaysia and Southeast Asia are among the fastest growing markets in the world. The Southeast Asian market expected to hit 9.1 billion by 2023 and an impressive growth rate of over 20%. Looking deeper into Malaysia, Malaysia is the third largest market in the Southeast Asian region, with a population of 32.4 million. more than 20 million of them are gamers. So that's almost 2/3 of its population. And these gamers generate over 800 million in revenues. So where do these gamers play? As expected, most of these gamers are mobile gamers, followed by PC and consoles. As a multicultural country, Malaysian gamers prefer to play games from both Eastern and Western influences. Now, if you take a look at the industry, Malaysia is also home to a significant digital content industry. This comprises companies under the animation, VFX, games interactive media, and new media platforms. This industry is important to Malaysia as it generates over $1.7 billion in terms of revenue and generates over 10,000 jobs. Now, if we look even deeper into the games industry specifically, MDEC tracks about 50 active game studios. Now, the industry is obviously much bigger than 50 companies, but these companies alone generate over 100 million in terms of IP and services revenue. And Malaysia is also home to a large number of schools that support game design and its related courses. There are over 50 schools, right, that are involved with game development. Now, we look into our studios that are available. Historically, most studios in Malaysia started out as outsourcing houses, but they have a proud heritage of supporting AAA game development titles, making Malaysia a global destination for high-quality game production and services. As these companies mature, they are transforming themselves to become original IP creators and for co-development. Recently launching titles such as Giga Bash, Zombie Soup, that went on to be hits in Tokyo Game Show and win multiple awards in the region. Not to be left out, there has been a rise of indie studios. In the last couple of years, we've seen strong titles and strong studios come out of Malaysia. Companies such as Kurechi and Explore has led the way from the beginning. And now, a more mature group of companies following suit, such as Magnus Games, Metronomic, Kaigan, and more recently, 7-Bit Games have seen incredible success through their games. Through titles such as No Straight Roads, Re-Legend, Simulacra, and of course the recent smash hit, Rhythm Doctor. Beyond Malaysian studios, we've seen an increase in the number of international studios setting up in Malaysia as well. Codemasters was one of the earliest studios to set up over 10 years ago. But in more recent years, we've seen Bandai Namco, Double 11, Larian Studios, and Sony Interactive. These companies have great confidence in the infrastructure, strong government support, and access to skilled talent in Malaysia. We also hope that these companies will attract attention not just to Malaysia, but also to the greater Southeast Asian games industry. So finally, let's take a look at the support that the Malaysian government provides. So back in 2019, MDEC and the industry sat together to determine the future of the digital content ecosystem. And the result of this was DICE, the Digital Content Ecosystem Strategic Framework. The vision for DICE was to create a conducive, inclusive, and competitive digital content ecosystem, which the games industry is part of. And this is going to be built upon 4 pillars. The pillars of talent development, industry support, IP commercialization, and positioning Malaysia as a regional hub. DICE serves as a guideline for national policy, as well as a roadmap, right, for the digital content ecosystem. So let's take a look at some of the initiatives that came out of DICE. Number one, MDEC provides grant and funding support for the development and the nurturing of new IPs. Next, we provide incubation and growth programs to ensure that companies and teams are sustainable as well as scalable to meet the competitive market demands. And once these companies are mature enough, we provide them with networking opportunities through programs such as Level Up and market access to places such as GDC, TGS, China Joy, and Gamescom. To further support the industry, we look out into the grassroots and the community as well, building awareness through the school programs such as Level Up at Schools, community events, streaming support, as well as esports. So these are not all the initiatives. There are a lot more initiatives. There are a lot more partnerships that we do. And I hope to be able to have a chat with you guys further on how we can collaborate. So if you're just interested to talk about or understand more about the Malaysian games industry or the games industry in general, do hit me up at mohan.lau@mdec.com.my. I hope you've enjoyed this talk and you've walked away with some valuable information. Thank you.
Thank you, Mohan, and thank you for joining us. I'm sure that the Malaysian game industry will continue to grow, and it's very exciting time. So thank you that you joined us for the Q&A.
Thanks for having me, Yuval. It's an honor here.
Yeah. So I think that as we wrote in the chat now this is your time to ask any questions. As you can see, there is a Q&A tab, so feel free just to type in your question. I'll just give you a few seconds. You can ask Mohan anything about any topic that he discussed earlier, anything that you would like him to elaborate.
Yeah, so I think Danny has asked, when is the next level up, right?
Yeah. When is the next level up? So
yeah, so it's going to be in August this year, but it's it's going to be a bit more special. Again, Level Up every year tries to do something different, and so this year we've kind of combined a bit of our activities with some of the animation companies as well. So it's a whole month of activities. So if you're familiar with Level Up, you'll have your Southeast Asia Game Awards and your Southeast Asian Game Jam, and then you've got your business day conferences, and then you've got your workshops, and then also this year we're looking at following last year's gamification of the exhibition. So hopefully we can get something up there as well. Yeah.
Okay, perfect. And what Hasnul is asking, what is the big plan for MDEC for 2021?
Okay, so so Hasnul's left quite a bit of big shoes for me to fill, right? So and in terms of games, the last couple of years has been quite phenomenal, right? We've seen a large number of indie studios, rise up. We've seen quite a number of foreign studios coming in, and so we're gonna. I think part of the big plan is to maintain that momentum. But given that this year and last year has been very, been very influenced, right, by the pandemic, so a lot of our activities have gone digital, right? And I think the plans moving forward, right, is putting a lot of our services, a lot of our expertise, knowledge, networking capabilities, right, online, to make it more inclusive, and also make accessible, right, to more people. I think that's really one part of it. And beyond content itself, we're also heavily looking at technology areas as well. Things along the lines of platforms, and not just so much on content, but also expanding right into more technological stuff as well. So that's the big plan, I think, for now, at least in the short term. We are still very, very supportive of growing this region as a whole. I think this year we've also initiated industry research together with all the different associations, right, in Southeast Asia. So I think we've got at least 6 of the associations on board as well.
And where can we find all the research?
So the paper is being drafted right now. I think we're still collecting information. It should be launched at the same time Level Up is. The plan is to launch the research paper in August.
Okay. So keep us posted on that. So just in matter of time, we have another question from Hannah, asking, with the demand for game services increasing, how do Malaysian studios keep up in terms of talent acquisition? That probably it's one of the big challenges of gaming studios. Do you still mostly get local talent, or have you been hiring outside of the country as well?
Yeah. So there are 2 parts to this equation, right? I think when it comes to talent, one is growing a funnel of talent, and so there's still a lot of room in our education system for that to happen. But in terms of industry support, I think in terms of upskilling and reskilling, we have a large number of programs in place. MDEC itself has a large number of programs, and we work closely with the studios. We're also looking at things like apprenticeship and so forth, right, to help grow this talent pool. Now we're looking at from the other part of the puzzle is in importing talent, right? So we have a pretty friendly policy in terms of accepting talent from overseas. We have these foreign knowledge worker programs and Malaysian tech entrepreneur programs. There's quite a number of programs that support, right, talent set coming into Malaysia. It is a bit of a challenge right now, obviously, with the pandemic. So hopefully, when this cools down and everyone's better vaccinated, right, I think we should be able to. But yes, it's a global problem, and it still is a problem because I think we continue to have more interest in companies that are interested to set up in Malaysia, and so the need for talent continues to rise.
Perfect. Yeah, I think that it's a global thing. And if we move to the other question, so in case we have really good talent and we are looking for a grant from MDEC, who should I contact? Should I send everyone to you, or what the plans around that?
Okay, so there are quite a number of ways to get funded. So quite a number of different grants, but MDEC itself provides grants for games and games and interactive media. So things like VR, AR stuff as well. The grants are so MDEC's been going through a bit of a how to call it, restructuring in terms of our grants process. So it's a bit on hold at the moment, but we're looking for that to come back soon. There is already so there is a grant unit that that I can forward the grant request to. There's also the MDEC website that you can find more information. So there are quite a number of different grants, all the way from and grants incentives all the way from from ideation, right, all the way to commercialization / marketing. So then and of varying different amounts.
Okay, that's great. I think that currently I'll just give people, in case you have more questions, feel free. I think that I have quite a lot of questions here. Wow. Let's go back. How is Malaysian gaming market dealing with blockchain or NFT? Is the number increasing?
Blockchain and NFTs. That's
what particular programs? I think that some of that you will be able to answer afterwards in the chat.
Okay.
But we have another one from Hannah. What particular programs under DICE have been most useful for outsourcing studios transitioning to IP development?
Okay. For transitioning into IP development, so I think the grants are there for companies that are already doing outsourcing capabilities. So there are bigger grants, there are networking opportunities as well, and we can also facilitate things like networking opportunities with potential mentors, and so we are right now building an online mentoring network system as well, so that should support companies that wants to transition. We have quite a number of things in the pipeline. It's including new funding networks that we're looking at as well. So it's not a straightforward answer, I think, because every company has they are completely at different stages, right? Especially when you're an outsourcing company. So I think the easiest answer is really getting connected with an existing co-development project. I think would be a good step up from just pure outsourcing.
Yeah, and I think that related to this, just in matter of time, probably it will be the last question for now, and you can follow up after this with the question that you didn't answer yet. So, how does Malaysian made game for small studios like most of us here able to create a shout out and marketing strategy for our games and compete against the more bigger studios? And I think that you answered part of that, but maybe if you can share with us some of your strategy of helping indies, compete with bigger studios. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. You know, for the last couple of years, right, MDEC has been focused on building a funnel of teams and a funnel of teams that can produce, internationally acceptable IPs. When I first joined MDEC, I think like 4 to 5 years back, there were very few products that, as I was doing biz dev for MDEC at that time, and it was very few products that I could take up. What we could promote was our outsourcing services. But today, there's this large number of indie companies and products that are coming out of Malaysia already. And I think it starts off with community building itself, first of all. Community building and the ability for the community to start sharing knowledge among themselves. And so we facilitate that by providing Level Up Inc., which is our incubation facility. And now it's currently we are actually shutting it down in a short while because of the pandemic. It's been highly underutilized given the current situation. We may likely open it up again, and we do have a new space that we are considering as well. So I think providing community space, community activities, community engagements are the basic parts of it. And then when you have your ideas, right, that's where we come in with funding. We can come out and fund quite small grants to give you validation, right, on those ideas, right, and then further funding, and then we've got trainings, mentorings, right, mentoring programs, and then finally we give you market access to networks and markets as well. So really, we've actually built this entire funnel, right, to help you get from ground zero, right, all the way to a commercialization.
Yeah. Perfect. So I think that you answered some of the questions. I think that probably it will be useful to share the information regarding the grant and just guide the indie developers on the call. But thank you very much for that, and hopefully the pandemic will leave us soon, and then we can go back to the to the original plans.
I can't wait to meet everyone on in a physical environment again.
Definitely get outside of this virtual space, but that's the best we can do for now. But thank you very much. I'm just moving on. I think that the next session, and thank you very much, Mohan, for staying with us for the Q&A. We have Darang Chandra, the director for Southeast Asia research from Niko Partners. He will be exploring the Malaysian market size, some gamers insight, forecast by platform, as well as trends shaping the future gaming and how it fares in the comparison to the rest of Southeast Asia. That, as you know, we had some events before. Prior to Niko Partners, Darang has worked with an array of research institutions from the Asian Study Center of the University of Indonesia, Daniel K. Inuyo Asia Pacific Center for Security Studies, Horizon Intelligence, and the Economist Intelligence Unit. Darang also has 2 master degree, a master in international affairs from the University of California, and a master in Chinese studies from Zhejiang University. So similar to what we did now with Mohan, as you are hearing his lecture of Darang, make sure to submit question in the Q&A. We'll try to answer most of them. So please welcome Darang.
Hello everyone, thank you for the introduction and thank you Gamescom Asia. It's a pleasure to be here. I'm Darang Chandra, the Director for Southeast Asia Research at Niko Partners. Niko Partners is a game market intelligence firm that has been analyzing the video games markets and consumers in Asia since 2002. Today, we will talk about the Southeast Asia games market with a focus on Malaysia. First of all, in 2020, we estimate that there are 393 million total gamers in Greater Southeast Asia. By Greater Southeast Asia, we mean Indonesia, Malaysia, the Philippines, Singapore, Thailand, Vietnam, and Chinese Taipei. In terms of population, Malaysian gamers are only 27 million, or just 6.8% of Greater Southeast Asia, which is not a big number compared to other countries in the region. In terms of revenue, in 2020, we estimate that the revenue from PC and mobile games in Southeast Asia is around $5.9 billion US. Almost 10% of it came from Malaysia, which provides around $524.5 million US. Malaysia is one of the highest in the region for revenue. This is due to higher disposable income on average than other countries in the region, as well as other factors that we will talk about in the next sections. Now, let's look at the PC games market of the region. In 2019, we estimated that there were 154 million PC gamers in the region, and the number is expected to increase to around 186 million in 2023. In terms of revenue, in 2019, we estimated that the number was around $2.1 billion US, but it will increase to around $3.1 billion US in 2023. It is important to note that 95% of gamers in the region are playing esports games or competing in esports. And it is also interesting to note that internet user penetration is developing rapidly in the region, especially for cables. And in the near future, we believe that it will reach more than 99%. The lion's share of the video games market in Southeast Asia, however, is the mobile games market. In 2019, the number of gamers was around 227 million, but we expect the number to increase into around 300 million in 2023. In terms of revenue, we expect the number to double from $2.8 billion US in 2019 to around $5.2 billion US in 2023. Similar to PC games, mobile gamers are also very interested in esports. And according to our survey, 90% of gamers that play on mobile play esports games or compete in esports. The number of smartphone users in the region is also growing rapidly, and between 2019 and 2023, we expect that the number will increase by around 150 million, which will also impact the number of gamers in the region. Let us look at the games that the gamers are playing. On this slide, the left side is the top PC games in Southeast Asia, and the right side is the top PC games in Malaysia. There are some similarities. For example, the top main games in both Malaysia and Southeast Asia are esports games, such as Dota 2, CSGO, and PUBG. However, non-esports games, such as MMORPG like Ragnarok, or rhythm game like Audition, are also popular in the region and in Malaysia. There are differences, however. Some esports games like Overwatch and Hearthstone are more popular in Malaysia compared to the rest of Southeast Asia. Similar trend can be seen for mobile games. In both Southeast Asia and Malaysia, the top mobile games are esports games like Mobile Legends, Free Fire, and PUBG Mobile. However, certain esports games are also more popular in Malaysia compared to the rest of Southeast Asia, like Call of Duty Mobile and Clash of Clans. Furthermore, because of the high number of people of Chinese descent in Malaysia, we've seen that Chinese-themed or Chinese-based games like Jin Jin Casino is also popular in Malaysia, while it's not that popular in other parts of Southeast Asia. This slide explains why gamers in Southeast Asia are drawn to esports. So according to our game segmentation analysis that we did in 2019, we found that 60% of gamers in Southeast Asia are motivated by competition, completion, community, and challenge. All of these motivations are very important in understanding why they are more drawn to esports games. In the region, the mobile games itself is dominated by free-to-play games, including almost all of the top major esports games. In Indonesia, Malaysia, Singapore, Philippines, Thailand, and Vietnam, all of the top 10 mobile games with the most downloads and highest revenue in 2019 were free-to-play games. And 61% of Mobile Legends' total revenue in 2019 was generated in Southeast Asia alone, with Malaysia and Indonesia as the lead drivers. If we zoom out a little bit to see the major trends in Southeast Asia, we also see positive development. For example, most governments in Southeast Asia have officially acknowledged esports as a sport. So that provide government support for the esports sectors as well as the general video games industry. We have also seen increasing involvement in the creation of AAA games from local studios in Southeast Asia. In terms of trend that are related to the consumers, we've seen that games with Asian-based IP, especially from Japan and Korea, are still the most popular in the region. And in terms of female gamers, we've seen high ratio of female gamers in Southeast Asia compared to Japan and Korea. While in Japan and Korea, there are less than 30% gamers who are female. In Southeast Asia, we've seen that the number are between 40 to 50%. And again, esports is the major driver for the growth of video game industry in Southeast Asia. Southeast Asia is, in fact, the world's fastest growing region for esports according to our research. And esports is the leading growth driver for Southeast Asia's game industry, with esports titles accounting for 41% of all game revenue in the region. We've seen a rising number of local and regional tournaments, which signal a groundswell of esports fandom and domestic investment of esports in the region. Mainstays such as Blizzard, EA, Riot, PUBG Corp, Tencent, and Garena will continue to dominate the region, although we've seen that local developers and publishers are also trying to grow and take more prominent role in esports. According to our esports tracker that we have in Niko Partners, we've seen that more than 244% increase of esports prize pools are recorded in Southeast Asia alone. And local teams can get massive numbers of loyal followers and activities on social media, such as the case of Evo's Esports and Aura Esports, which even exceed traditional sportsmen like Nico Rosberg or Naomi Osaka. Alright, now let's specifically talk about Malaysia. In terms of the number of PC and mobile gamers, we estimate that the number would not be that different, with around 13 million PC gamers and 14 million mobile gamers. It should be noted that there are overlap, as PC gamers can also play mobile gamers and vice versa. In terms of growth, however, mobile gamers show higher growth, with 7.9% of growth in 2020 compared to 2.3% for PC gamers in the same year. As for their revenue, PC games revenue is around half of those of mobile, with 166.7 million for PC and 357.8 million for mobile games. And also, the rate of growth for mobile game revenue is also higher than those of PC. In general, Malaysia is mobile first in terms of gaming, similar to the rest of Southeast Asia. Malaysia currently has the second highest average revenue per user for mobile games in the region, behind Thailand. And the revenue from mobile gaming in Malaysia grew by around $100 million between 2017 to 2019, with a growth rate of 17.7% in 2019, showing how big the industry is growing in the country. And the popularity of gaming is also supported by telecom companies such as Udo. And also game streaming are popular, especially via YouTube and Facebook gaming. For example, the viewership count for Facebook gaming has seen 87% growth, with more than 20.7 million stars given by viewers in April 2020 alone. We can also talk a little bit more about esports in Malaysia. As mentioned before, esports is very popular in the country. Mobile esports, such as Mobile Legends and PUBG Mobile, are among the most popular games in the country. In fact, 4 out of top 5 grossing mobile games in 2020 are mobile esports titles. Some interesting updates include the partnership between Malaysia Electronic Sports Federation, or MESF, with Dynasty Esports, worth $3.2 million. Esports team articles are also included in Malay language textbooks level 4 for high schoolers throughout the country last year. And Sedania Innovator, a Malaysian company, expanded to Latin America, via its partnership with Mexico's Arena Esports Pro Gaming, Panama's and Colombia's Versus Esports, and Ecuador's Brew TV. Malaysian esports channel, AG Network, owned by Astro, is also now being broadcasted in 8 countries. It collaborates with game developers and esports event organizers around the region. And lastly, the International Esports Federation appointed Malaysia's Dota 2 player Tiffany Oling Lim as the head of the athlete committee of the organization. I would like to share a result of our gamer survey in 2020 in Malaysia. As you can see here, the majority of Malaysian gamers spend their time playing esports-related games such as MOBA, shooting, and Battle Royale. Although games such as MMORPGs and browser web games are also taking a lot of their times, although not as prevalent as esports games. The importance of esports can also be seen in this slide, where we ask why Malaysians are still playing at iCafes for those who are still playing there. Almost half of the respondents answered that they went to iCafes to watch pro esports matches or to watch esports streaming, and also to play esports tournaments. The rest of the answers are not as prevalent, but you can also see some infrastructure-related issues, such as they play at iCafes or cybercafes because they will have better internet speed or better PCs at iCafes. Another important factor in the gaming industry that we have to analyze is the regulatory environment. Malaysia has the Digital Content Ecosystem or DICE policy, which support gaming and esports in general. Kementerian Belia dan Sukan or KBS, the Ministry of Youth and Sports, also has a strategic plan for esports development for 2020 to 2025. It includes 25 key initiatives and 5 prioritized strategies, an esports integrated initiative, a national esports roadmap, and moves toward the creation of Esports and Gaming Development Act. The Malaysian government also provides budget for digital content creation and esports. In 2020, they provided 20 million ringgit or 4.8 million US dollars. And in 2021, the number is a little bit lessened into 15 million ringgit or 3.6 million dollars. And state governments, including Perak and Selangor, are also allocating budget for gaming and esports this year. Government institutions are also taking part. For example, the Malaysian Anti-Corruption Commission became the first law enforcement agency in the country to use mobile games as a platform for conveying anti-corruption messages. Local governments are also cooperating for esports and gaming activities, such as between Kedah, Perak, Putrajaya, and Johor state education departments. Some other major trends that are important in the gaming industry in Malaysia can also be seen here in this slide. For example, game spending, especially for mobile games, are increasing. Gamers in Malaysia, in fact, accounted for the highest amount of spending at $87.5 million or 17% of the total revenue garnered by Mobile Legends worldwide in 2019. We in Niko Partners also track an increased involvement from non-endemic brands in gaming and esports, with notable players include McDonald's Malaysia, Maggi Malaysia, and Subway Malaysia. Arguments against video games and esports have also entered public discourse in recent years. Former Deputy Prime Minister Wan Azizah Wan Ismail once warned about the danger of esports addiction publicly, and a mufti from Negeri Sembilan, a state in Malaysia, called for the government to ban PUBG in 2019. Another interesting fact is that the World Intellectual Property Organization ranked Malaysia as number 2 in Southeast Asia and number 34th worldwide as the most innovative country, and number 1 in terms of high-tech net experts, which can be seen as how the Malaysian local high-tech industry, including gaming, have been progressing rapidly, which we can also see in the next slide. Malaysian-based developers were involved in the development of AAA games published by international studios in the past few years. The local game developer scene is also expanding, with more than 100 game developers, mostly from Malaysia, attending the country's Level Up KL 2020 event. And international studios also have presence in Malaysia, with notable names include Sony, Bandai Namco, and Larian Studios. Games developed involving Malaysia-based studios include Death Stranding, Ghost of Tsushima, Final Fantasy XV, Street Fighter V, Pokemon Masters X, Spider-Man Miles Morales, and other games that can be seen here. So based on all the information that I have presented, what are the main takeaways? Well, first, Malaysia has shown a strong growth and spending in the games market, especially for mobile games. The country's government is apparently supporting the industry, and the games ecosystem is also open to international entities. In fact, notable cooperation among public and private entities are recorded in the country. Esports is also popular and getting more mainstream, and the top games in the country, both for PC and mobile, are esports titles. Lastly, local game studios in Malaysia have shown the ability to produce AAA games. And that would be it for me. Thank you for your attention. And from Niko Partners, we have several reports that are upcoming, including our Asia 10 reports, which covered country-level reports on 10 markets in Asia. We also have our China reports, our China streaming tracker, and our own esports tracker. Niko Partners is a market research and consulting firm covering the games market in Asia. We have a global team that allows us to efficiently follow the sun from offices in Silicon Valley, Shanghai, Jakarta, Bangkok, and London. And we have a notable array of clients from game publishers, platforms, hardware makers, component makers, esports builders, payment providers, and more. Okay, thank you. Terima kasih tuan-tuan dan puan-puan. You can always follow us at Niko China on Twitter. Subscribe to our Niko News free weekly market intelligence from nikopartners.com. We also have our blog articles and data reports on our website. Back to you.
Thank you, Darren, for the great presentation, and thank you for staying with us to the Q&A session.
Thank you. It's great to be here.
Yeah, and I think that we already have a few questions, but feel free, everyone, similar to what we did with Mohan, just to chat in the Q&A section, and then people can just rate it. So we will choose the priority questions and then go down. So we can start with the one from Kua, and the question was, when you project the numbers to increase by that amount, what about the percentage increase in comparison to other Southeast Asia countries? So is it projected to retain the 10% or increase in percentage?
All right, that's a great question. And we in Niko Partners do track the percentage change like year by year for mobile games, PC games, the number of gamers all across Asia. Mm-hmm. And for Southeast Asia, we forecast that although the number will keep growing in terms of like the number of gamers, the number of revenue generated from mobile and PC games, but the growth will be slower. It's going to increase, but not as fast as before the pandemic. And with the pandemic going on, and even after the pandemic is over, we forecast that it will be slower. For example, for mobile games market, in terms of the revenue, although it will still keep increasing from like the current number from like 350 million US dollars per year in 2020, and we estimate that it will still keep growing to reach like $500 million in like 2 or 3 years. But the rate is slower. It's not going to stay more than 10%. Number from like 350 million US expected to still increase, but at a slower rate due to the pandemic. And compared to the rest of Southeast Asia, Malaysia actually has one of the biggest increase in terms of percentage. It's not as big in terms of growth as the Philippines, but it's bigger than most of the other Southeast Asian countries. It's bigger than Singapore. It's bigger than Indonesia. But yeah, because of the pandemic, it will get slow in terms of their growth.
Thank you, Darang. And we got a lot of feedback that the data is very useful. So thank you for the slides. The other question that we have from Hasnul, what are your thought of the growth of consoles that you haven't mentioned, PlayStation, Xbox, Switch, and so on?
Yeah, so in Southeast Asia, console is not a big market as opposed to mobile and PC. Southeast Asia is a mobile first in terms of gaming, but console is also growing. We only track in general the growth of console in China, Japan, and Korea, not necessarily in Southeast Asia. But as like the economy is healing after the pandemic, and as interoperability between games, so multi-platforms are like the ones that can be introduced in Southeast Asia. So people can play the same games in console, mobile, and PC, and this will in fact have a positive outlook on the growth of console games, because people in Southeast Asia who are not as great in terms of their ability to buy consoles, it will increase in the next few years. But we don't see that it will be the main platforms for gaming in Southeast Asia. Southeast Asia will stay as a mobile first for like the foreseeable future.
Yeah. Okay. Thank you for that. Another question from Daniel. Do you have any data? Do you have any data or info regarding free-to-play games versus fully priced games?
Yes, we do have it in our reports. In general, almost all of Southeast Asian countries, including Malaysia, the gamers, like most of them, when we surveyed, and then from the company profiles and company data that we collected, most of them prefer free-to-play games with in-app purchase options instead of premium games. And this is related to how most gamers in Southeast Asia are mobile gamers, and most successful mobile games are free-to-play games.
Okay, that's great to know. Cyrus asked, I don't see Garena on any of the slides. How much participation of Garena in Malaysia gaming industry?
Well, you don't see it on the slides, but it's there as like some of the games that I showed there are Garena games, like Free Fire, and then League of Legends are also published by Garena in Southeast Asia. So even though I don't mention them by name, they have a big presence in Malaysia, because like the top games that are popular in Malaysia, both in PC and mobile, are published or developed by Garena.
Okay.
And they have like an active fan base and an active business going on in Malaysia.
Perfect. Okay, so we'll go back to the slides and check that. The other question from Hannah, looking at if there is any data on the most effective channels Malaysian studio have used connect with major AAA developers. So and when we say channels, meaning marketing channels, so referral, LinkedIn networking events, and so on.
Well, in general, because Malaysia has a very great MICE, like the Meeting, Incentives, Conference, and Exhibits business, I think that will be the main place for business-to-business partnership to grow. I mean, we participated in Level Up KL for a few years before the pandemic, and we saw like lots of cooperations, lots of networking events happening there. And yeah, that will be the main channel. But during the pandemic, online channels are fine, but of course it will be different compared to inside events.
Yeah, and I think that one point there is one other question that maybe you can type afterward. That would be the last question for now. That in the backstage we were talking about what's so unique now in the time of the Malaysia gaming ecosystem, that if in the past it was more of looking at export and maybe building a company to be sold, now it's a little bit changing. If you can elaborate on that a little bit.
Yeah, Malaysia has a very developed studios environment. There are plenty of top AAA studios that are available in Malaysia. And previously, most of the Malaysian AAA studios, they try to sell the games. They try to export the games and see like the West or China as their main export markets. But with the growth of Malaysian domestic gamers, with the growth of the revenues and ARPUs across the board in Malaysia, I think now it's the best time to introduce their games to the domestic gamers in Malaysia, and because now it's the best time, everyone's playing games now. It's online.
Yeah, definitely. And I think that as we discussed, it's a unique positioning because it's much harder for companies outside of Malaysia to kind of have the nuance locally compared to all the kind of like big casual and strategy games that are kind of like less customized. Great. So I think that we are out of time, but we have a few other questions. If you can stay later and just chat, just type your answer.
Sure.
And I will move over to a quick message. Yeah, a quick message from Elaine.
Hello.
Hey, Elaine.
Hey, Elaine.
Okay, thank you, Yuval. And hello, my name is Elaine Chu. I'm the conference manager at Gamescom Asia. Thank you again for joining us today. By now, you would have had a better understanding of the key markets in the region, especially for those of you who have been following our monthly boot camps. So, what is next is that we want to provide you a bigger and better experience by bringing the industry together at a hybrid Gamescom Asia trade conference. So, in other words, online and offline participation and content. So the main conference, Games 360, yeah, will cover all aspects of the video game industry, covering themes like game development and design, production and team management, business and marketing, esports, next gen tech, including like cloud gaming, XR, and more. We also have a spin-off event for mobile games, the Mobile Gaming Summit. The summit has a dedicated focus on mobile game development, publishing, and growth strategies. As you know, the global mobile game revenues continue to outpace the growth of on PC and consoles. So we believe this is an area that many of you would be interested to look into. So the good news is, with just one ticket, you can access to both Games 360 and the Mobile Gaming Summit. But of course, I'm not here to sell you tickets. So I'm here to announce that the call for speakers is now open till 1st of August. So if you would like to contribute to the conversation, share your success stories, war stories, exciting new ideas and strategies, hit the button below. Yeah, as you can see, there's a button that says speaker submission, and bookmark it right now. However, if you are interested to attend, ticket details will be out in the next month. You can subscribe to our mailing list to stay updated. As you can see, there's also a button that says subscribe to mailing list. Yeah, to learn more about other programs and opportunities that we have in store for you at Gamescom Asia, please do talk to any of my colleagues in the chat. We love to share the details with you. And thank you so much for watching. Stay safe, everyone. And now we'll move on to the next session.
Hi again. Thank you very much for the message. And just to make sure that everyone is still with us, let's try a quick checkup to see how you are. Let's see the level of energy in the room. If you are, a little bit tired and, want to go to sleep, press 1. If you are really excited and more in the high energy level, you can press 8, 9, or 10. So just 1 to 10. I just want to see 11. Perfect. 1,100. Oh my God. 999. Perfect. Okay. Great stuff. Great stuff. I see that. Wow. I put like a range, but then everyone just decided to create their own number, which is amazing. I think that this is why we're all in the gaming business, right? Because we are very creative about that. So that's perfect. And again, thank you very much for joining. And let's move on. I'm feeling very excited, and I hope that you learned a lot as I learned in the last few sessions. But I'm also very excited about the next fireside chat with Niko from Marvel Games. And I heard they're going to share a lot of exclusive sneak peeks, and not just one, actually two of their games, that Marvel Super War and Marvel Future Revolution. And Marvel Future Revolution, as you might know, is going to be Marvel's first open world game on mobile. And I saw that a lot of you know Danny, and very excited about him joining us. Moderating this panel is IGN Japan's chief editor, Daniel Robson. Just a little bit about Daniel. Has over 20 years of experience in the entertainment media, starting in London as a music journalist and an editor, moving to Tokyo in 2006 to cover Japanese pop cultures for 2014. Daniel returned to media in 2016, joining the Japanese newsletter Sankei Digital to launch IGN Japan, where he runs the editorial team. Daniel also hosts IGN Japan flagship video series on gaming and movies, as well as producing content in English for the global IGN site. So give it up, and I hope that bring all the energy to Danny and Daniel.
Hi everybody, I'm Daniel Robson from IGN Japan, and I'm joined by Danny Koo, Director of Production at Marvel Games. Hi Danny.
Hi, how are you doing?
Very, very good, man. It's really good to see you. It's been a long time.
Yeah, it's the Daniel and Danny show again.
That's right. Too many
All right.
hands there. Sorry for
Yes.
confusing everybody.
All right.
Danny, we first met at a game event in Malaysia, which I believe is where you're from originally. Is that right?
Yeah, I was born in Malaysia. I believe we met in 2019.
That's right.
It's part of the Malaysia game conference. End of the year, right? Yes.
Yeah, and it's been a while since we've been able to travel anywhere, so it's very nice to be able to connect with you like this over video. I think so. We're going to talk today about Marvel Games and how you guys work with different developers to get your characters and your stories into all kinds of games across all kinds of platforms. You guys are doing a pretty incredible job of getting,
thank you.
Not only getting games onto all these platforms, but consistently getting good games onto these platforms, which is a whole other conversation. So I'd like to ask you all about that. First of all, let's start by just hearing a little bit about yourself, your background. How did you end up at Marvel Games?
So yeah, hi again for anyone who didn't know. I'm Danny Koo. I was born in Malaysia. I was born and raised there, and I went to University of California, Irvine to study computer science and computer engineering, and actually have a minor in missile defense. Yes,
Wow.
at a very young age, I always wanted to make game content. I work summer jobs only to spend my entire wages on video games, and my dad would be like, "Why do you spend all your money on video games?" And now he realized that because I started at Sierra Entertainment as a QA tester, moved my way all the way up, build my portfolio and resume. Then I work at Activision, and then I have a stint at Disney, and finally now I work at Marvel Games. That's how I got started 5 years ago, actually, at Marvel Games. My role as director of product development is to oversee our Asia portfolio and also our games portfolio, especially coming out from Asian developers, and grow the Marvel brand in Asia. It's quite popular Marvel brand. I also thankfully speak Mandarin, Cantonese, Malay. So I'm pretty fluent in having conversation with developers at a local level, and also try to pick up, a little Japanese, Korean. My son goes to Korean school. I have to do some of his homework, so I learn at the same time, which is cool.
That's cool.
Yeah.
Okay, and obviously, Marvel Games as an entity has only existed for a short time, but there have been Marvel games for a long time. I mean, even when I was a kid, there were, X-Men games on the Mega Drive and whatever. There were tons and tons of Marvel games everywhere. What exactly is the Marvel Games team now? Why was the team formed? What do you do? Can you tell us a little more about Marvel Games?
So we are at Marvel Games. We're all Marvel fans. Kind of think of us like Avengers Assemble. So this our business unit leader Jay Ong. When he started at Marvel, he took a look at the market and took a look at the company, and he formed what we call a Marvel 2.0. Basically, we used to do whenever a Marvel movie comes in, you get your Marvel movie game that is relevant to the particular Marvel movies. And it feels like it's kind of redundant, because you go watch a movie, you get the same content in the video games, you experience the same thing. And also, if you haven't watched the movie, it's a spoiler for you as well on the games. So that got him thinking. It's like, hey, if we're able to produce our own comics, our own television show and movies, we should be able to produce our own games. So he assembled a team of Marvel fans, if you will, with all kind of diversity background. My teammates come from like various industry, but all of them are gamers, and they work at other game companies before. So basically, Avengers Assemble, we formed this Marvel Games team, and we partner with fantastic developers that are expert in their relative genre, and craft our own story and craft our own game with them, and produce hits after hits. It's what you see today for Marvel Games.
I mean, it's not like you guys are directly developing the games yourselves. You're working with all kinds of partner publishers and developers. I was looking, because as I say, there were Marvel-related games before Marvel Games was formed, but I was just looking at your official site, and I mean, the list of games is pretty impressive. Everybody already, of course, knows Avengers and Spider-Man and Miles Morales series on PlayStation. We've had a Marvel huge tie-up in Fortnite. There are all kinds of games on mobile, Future Revolution, Marvel Super War. There's Lego games, there's Ultimate Alliance, there's Strike Force, there's Puzzle Quest, there's the Telltale games, Guardians of the Galaxy. There's so many different games coming out on all kinds of different platforms. So I'd love to drill down a little bit into some of those. Let's start with Marvel Future Revolution. This is obviously a mobile game being made together with Netmarble in Korea, and I'm very curious to know more about where mobile as a platform fits in for you guys. Obviously, with you especially being focused on Asia, mobile is a huge market in Asia, but growing in the West as well. How do you guys see mobile? How does that fit in with other platforms, and with Marvel Future Revolution in particular? Why did you go that route?
So as you pointed out, we have an incredible diverse portfolio, and we also, we are the reason we have so many of this, and bear in mind this happened the last 5 years. All the titles you see on the website right now. This is how we expand the awareness of Marvel content to however fans choose to engage. Right? They have cell phones, they have console, they have VR. They have the console of the choice. So we want to be there to serve up Marvel content to all our fans, however they would choose to be. In terms of mobile, it's very important to us. It's a huge market, as you pointed out, especially in Asia. Their primary gaming device is on the phone, and then think of us like a creative extension arm of each of these Asian developers or Western developers. When they develop game, we are embedded with them in creative choices of storytelling, the character art style. We have an incredible creative team in Marvel Games that work with them on that, and also we wear several hats, in terms of product development, marketing, branding. We work with developers on that day to day. Especially in the climate right now, it's especially important that we are able to have constant communication, and we're talking right now in Zoom, and Zoom is a favorite tool for us to talk to all the developers. Going back to Marvel Future Revolution, it's a very, very ambitious game. We did our first title with Netmarble from South Korea, called Marvel Future Fight, and this is our second title with them. We trust each other so much. We know how each other work, and why not do a second title? And we announced this title back in last year at PAX East, and just right before everybody got shut down on quarantine.
That was the last physical show I got to go to. Yeah, it feels like a lifetime ago.
I know. It was a bummer, but hey, we work with them, and recently we are amping up on telling people what the game is all about, and we have from Monday to Friday daily we are showing new assets to show off on social media, to get the excitement going, right? So for Future Revolution, it's different. Traditionally how you view a mobile phone title. Like, we want this to be like a AAA game on the mobile phone. It's done in Unreal Engine. It's a large-scale AAA open world action RPG, and and a lot of people compare this with various competitors. Like, Fair Game is in Asia is known as MMO, but at the root, it's what Netmarble do best. It's action RPG, and with the open world, and players can have their single player campaign with PvE content, or multiplayer content like PvP. The other exciting aspect that we excited to introduce to the world is in this game there are millions of costume combinations per character. So we have announced 8 playable characters. There are tons of costume choices you can do and combination, and this is going to be one of the biggest games we have offered this year.
Is that actually millions of combinations per character?
I'm not going to give you the exact number. It's in the triple-digit millions.
Wow. Okay.
Yes. So with mobile title, you can also have a daily touch point with fans. That means like whenever we have a comic book event or a movie or a Disney Plus event, across all our mobile games, we can support that as well and bring in content as an event, if you will.
Cool. That's a no small undertaking. I think I have more questions regarding this, but first of all, I think you have a clip to share with us. Is that right?
Yes. Me and Netmarble decided to bring this exciting clip, sneak peek for the audience here, and I hope you enjoy it. Here you go.
Here we go. Marvel Future Revolution. Please check it out. Cool. Thanks very much for sharing that with us today. So as I was saying before, I'm interested to know more about exactly how it is that you guys work with different developers, different platforms to get your games onto those, get the right kind of characters, the right kind of stories into the right kind of games on the right kind of platforms? Because, it's a lot. I mean, talking about Future Evolution, where you have this massive open world RPG, there's a lot of content in that one game, but then you've also got all the other games as well. Something like, Avengers on multiple platforms, for example. Then you have, each platform has its own game that's sort of suited to that platform. So in terms of picking characters, picking stories, picking locations from the Marvel universe, how do you decide what content goes into what games, which partners to work with for those games, and keeping everything consistent in terms of quality, in terms of lore?
Yeah, think of our team like programmers in a network show. We know what the upcoming events way in the future from different line of business at Marvel, and we know what the characters are, what the locations are, and also we work with the developers, what they are passionate about, right? If we are making, for example, Avengers game or Marvel Super War, it's like, hey, who are your favorite characters that you want to tell the story about? Then from there, we work together to kind of determine the character rosters, and which is for launch and which one is for like continuation of the story, to kind of evenly pace it out. Depends on the games as well. We also have to ensure all the characters are well represented in terms of like diversity. How would they look when you put them all together? And in terms of different families of characters, it's like, if this is an Avengers game, sure, we want Avengers in the game. But if this is like a general Marvel Universe games, like we would like different character representation, like from the Guardians, from Avengers, from Fantastic Four, from X-Men. Like we have so many families of representation in the game. And then also we have to match the characters with the skills that the creators and game developers wanted for their gameplay purposes, right? It's like, hey, give me a tank. So we're like, okay, we have a lot of tank looking character or a fighter looking character, but what do you really want? Like, so we drill down to like, SWAT based, spear based, magical based tank. It's like, what is a magical based tank, right? It's like, hey, can Doctor Strange be a tank? Sure, if you have a giant shield in front of him at all time, like that kind of creativity, we work with them all the time. And Super War has so many of this type of skill-based requirement for characters, and it's been very, very interesting to work with them, how to interpret our characters and match it with the skills they want for their mobile title.
I mean, I would guess probably part of your job also is, with all these games going on at once, making sure that each game is sufficiently different, and that the timing is different, that they're not stepping on each other's toes, and that you don't see two games that are really similar coming out at the same time. Is that something?
Yeah,
that you have to do?
Yeah, our team have to do that, especially our business team. They look at the portfolio, we plan out ahead. We really don't like similar game that comes and collide to each other, and then we also want to space them out. So you will never find us launching 2 games on the same day, that kind of stuff. And it's been working well for the last 5 years. And of course, in the game development, things changes all the time, due to whatever circumstances. It's game development. And then we have to, just like any network programming TV show, like we have to reprogram everybody's timeline and stuff. And that has been a very interesting but very rewarding when it's done right.
Sure. I mean, it's something that not only with games, but Marvel has become very strong at across all of its different outlets, with movies as well, and even comics.
Exactly.
Having not competing, but complementary storylines going on across different.
Yeah, I would say it's a very complementary relationship.
So I believe you mentioned Marvel Super War just now, which is a game made together with NetEase Games on mobile. And I believe you have an exclusive clip for us to see right now. Would you like to tell us a little bit about that?
Yes, in the interest of continuing increased representation in the Asia region, today we want to show you for the first time ever Wave's debut in Marvel Super War.
Awesome. Let's check out the video.
All right.
Look what the tide brought in. Me. I don't always do what I'm told. I do what's right.
That was a cool clip. Thanks for sharing that.
Yeah, you're welcome.
Danny, so Wave is a character from the Philippines, which takes us nicely into our next topic, which is, you touched on it a little bit already, but getting more diversity into your games. I mean, Marvel has been doing this not only with games, of course, but with all of its media. But in particular, with you, being focused on Asia yourself, and we have Wave. We also have other characters such as the Warriors of the Sky characters, which I believe you were involved with, and Kestrel and various other characters, that are from here in Asia. So how do you go about that? So some of these characters maybe are being, created specifically for a particular comic or a particular game, a particular property. Other characters are being pulled in, that already existed in the Marvel universe. What's your kind of day-to-day, going about bringing those characters into a new era of Marvel games?
Yeah, so it's all about timing and developer availability. I think we really hit our stride when we first started creating our Marvel first K-pop superhero Luna Snow with Netmarble. And when we created that, it seemed like it's very well received. It's the first South Korean representation properly come from the game side. And if you look at Luna, and she transitioned from the game into the comics called Agents of Atlas, which is written by Greg Pak. And in Agent of Atlas, Korea was getting invaded by hell, if you will. In the same comic as well, Wave debut from the Philippines. So this is like a global event, and we know that Wave is gonna come out in that issue, and we thought, hey, they are a team, team of like Asia superheroes coming together to save the the Asia corner of the world. We took Wave and debut her in Marvel Future Fight as well, and it was very, very well received. And so we know that Marvel fans in Asia really like content that represent themselves as well. So I am daily, every day talking to developers and find ways to introduce all these characters into different games, so that everyone can get a taste of what diversity means to them. And in celebration of Asian Heritage Month this month, it is also important to highlight creators from the Asian community, especially studios that is as good as the Western development strength as well in terms of presentation, graphic presentation, technology execution, and all that good stuff.
How do you guys go about making sure that those characters remain authentic and it's not just a sort of a Western take on what Asian characters might look like, but actually making sure that they ring true? Yeah,
so like when we created the Luna Snow, Crescent, and Ayo, we work with locals in Korea. They're from there, and we do research into some lore and local culture. We also have the Disney organization in Asia that have people that can help us, give us their opinions and feedback about what resonates and what doesn't resonate, or what is taboo. It's like, hey, you shouldn't do that. This is considered bad in Asia, that kind of stuff. So we are very, very careful about that. We just so far all the Asian characters are being done, with Asian creators. And now, of course, we recently have Kestrel. She's also Malaysian born as well, but she's like a scientist working with NASA, and so she moved to the US. So I kind of related to that as well, as born in Malaysia and kind of immigrated to the US. as well. So that kind of authentic story that we want to tell as well as presenting characters representation from Asia.
Yeah, I think that's an important distinction as well, because obviously, you know, in the modern world, people do move around. I mean, I'm from England, I live in Japan, and you know, you're from Malaysia, you're living in the States, right? And
Right.
you know, people do move around in that way, and especially, you know, there are Asian communities all around the world, and so seeing that kind of, you know, it's not just a Malaysian character who's in Malaysia or that kind of thing, but to see a Malaysian character who, yeah, maybe she grew up in the States, maybe she's been there for a while, which gives you another kind of sort of slightly sort of a variation on what that identity means. It's nice to see that reflected in Marvel's media.
Yeah, I thought it was interesting too, because you know, superhero transcends, you know, countries, if you will. You know, it's a global phenomenon. It's like, you know, there's a hero in everybody, right? No matter where you are. And you know, we put the human in superhero, right? So the human elements we still need to retain no matter what.
Okay, and another sort of on a similar kind of theme, another character I'd like to touch on is Kamala Khan, Ms. Marvel. She was a character that, you know, was sort of repurposed in the comics more recently as a Muslim character who grew up in the States from Pakistani descent. And you know, she hadn't yet been introduced on the screen yet. She hadn't been in the movie. There is a TV show coming up, I believe, in the near future on Disney Plus. But we haven't actually seen her that much in action outside of the comics. But there she was in the Avengers game as the main character in the solo campaign of that game, which I thought was a great choice for several reasons. One, because she's a really interesting character, and you know, personally, as someone who grew up in London, which is quite a diverse city, she reminded me of a lot of people I know, and I actually felt quite a strong connection in that way. But also because, you know, because she's a character who's kind of a fangirl of the Avengers, it's a good way to get you into an Avengers game storyline. But also, she hasn't really been on screen yet, and so having a game like the Avengers, the Square Enix's Avengers by Crystal Dynamics, which is obviously very sort of cutscene heavy. There's a lot of movies within the game that gives you a sort of cinematic storytelling, but they don't have to worry about repeating what's been shown in the movies because she hasn't been on screen yet. So I thought it was a really, really inspired choice to lead that game. Can you talk a little bit about how that came together?
Yeah, it was discussed at length. You know, Kamala's presence in a single-player campaign is very, very intentional. From the very beginning, she is a focal point. Since the announcement trailer, if you remember back then, that's just I believe it was just a shield, and then this Mjolnir, and it was just Kamala's voice. If you remember her voice,
that's right. That's right.
And everyone was like, "Who is that girl?" Right? You know, her role as a lead POV character, right? It served really well as a narrative, you know, created by the team at Crystal Dynamics. You know, of course, in collaboration with us as well. You know, she is the ultimate Avenger fangirl, and because of her fanaticism, served her well in her journey to help her reconcile or even reassemble the Avengers team. Like, she is like the perfect cast, and you know, Kamala is just like she embodies the spirit, like all of us, like, you know, every Marvel fan who just wants to, you know, get the band back together. Like, you know, her powers also is interesting because, you know, of her stretch. She's able to stretch. She's able to grow big. You know, like, she's very stretchy, and it allows, you know, very dynamic gameplay. So she was natural choice for a character that player would spend a lot of time playing as. You know, and also it helps that, you know, Sandra Sard, you know, did a very good job in portraying both like the teenager Kamala and also, you know, the preteen Kamala as well.
What else have we got to look out for this year coming from Marvel games?
So of course we have Marvel Future Revolution is going to launch globally. We haven't announced the date yet. It's still hush hush, but it will come.
You can tell us. Why don't you just
I can guarantee you. And then also we have Marvel Super War launching in China as well, and we haven't told anyone about the release date. Right now is undergoing closed beta tests. It's been going well, and please look forward to that in China. And of course, as you mentioned, the big Wakanda content, coming to Marvel's Avengers soon. And we do have some tricks up our sleeve. Please watch out for them at E3 because there are a lot of stuff that we have not revealed yet.
Again, you're welcome to tell us all about it right now.
We are the House of Secrets.
That's right.
Yeah.
I suppose since we have just a couple minutes left, how do you keep all this stuff secret? I mean, there's obviously, you're a professional person is the answer, I'm sure. But when you've got all of this stuff and it's so exciting, and I'm sure you get bombarded with questions from all around all the time, is it hard to sometimes just say, oh, I can't talk about that yet? How do you keep that stuff to yourself?
Yeah, the natural instinct is to I want to tell you everything that happened at all times. Now, having worked in the industry for so long, like over 17 years, 18 years now, you kind of get a sense. It's like, hey, when you have the right time to tell fans, it will be a pleasant surprise for them, an emotional surprise for them. If we are about to leak some stuff, it will ruin the surprise and they're no longer excited. And we want this to be, as exciting as possible. And we want to keep the pacing throughout the year and not announcing everything all at once at one go. Marvel IP is popular, around the world. We have the comics, we have the movies, we have the TV shows, we have the games, and there's so much activity going on the entire year.
Yeah.
There are a bunch of rumors that's floating around, and we don't address rumors at all. And I feel like having us keeping this secret until the right time is always the best way to go. And it's a shock and awe tactic. Like, wow, I can't believe you did this, right?
Excellent. Yeah, that's a very good diplomatic answer. So, Danny, I think we're out of time. Thank you so much for this chat today. I really enjoyed it. I wish we could chat for much longer. I think there's going to be a Q&A, a live Q&A after this. So we'll get to chat a little bit more.
All right, let's go chat with the audience.
Exactly. But for everyone who's watched up until now, Danny Koob, Director of Production at Marvel Games. I'm Daniel Robson at IGN Japan. Thanks for joining us at Gamescom Asia's Games Market Bootcamp Malaysia for this Marvel Games Fireside chat. And we're waiting for your questions. Let's go.
Let's go.